Hey everybody, Conan here. Gonna try something a little different. Not gonna talk as much during this. Gonna let us vibe out to some of this Beethoven while we draw, but I'll talk when necessary. Here, we're starting with some basic shapes, just to build a framework for our dragon, starting with that diamond for the head. Make sure the big point goes down. And then a trapezoid for the body. We're going to use some triangle forms for the wings. And then here on the left side, we'll also use some triangle forms. I enjoyed doing this wing because all these triangles kind of fit together, puzzle style. It's very satisfying. Now more triangles upside down. These are going to represent the legs. We got the biggest leg is going to be in the foreground. There's a back leg, smaller back leg, one that's further away from us. Let's make that front leg a little bigger. Much better. And then one more triangle towards the front. That's the front arm that's behind the body. And we'll use these triangle forms to represent where the horns will go as well. There we go. And a simple curve to represent the tail. Now we're going to switch to our permanent marker, permanent lines. Unfortunately, with this first wing, I really messed it up. I didn't plan it out correctly, and it didn't have the look I was going for, so I sped up this footage because I didn't want the next segment for you to go, wait a minute, what happened with that wing? So I'm going to show you how I did the wing, but it's not how it's going to stay. So if you want to leave that wing for now and wait till we get to the second wing, that's just fine. As I said, that's not our final wing there. Let's move on to the other side. This wing is how we want the other wing to end up being. When we're done with this wing, we're just going to copy it for the other side. Now that's one good wing. Let's do that with the other side. First we get rid of it. Erase, erase, erase. As I always say, that's why we draw in something we can erase in case we need to make changes. And we're just going to kind of copy the same angle on the front of the wing here. You see on the other side. And get that wing up back. Now we make these wings jagged in the back. They're not straight because this is an old dragon. It's got a little babble damage to it. There, now we've got our perspective right. And we'll continue to put in the bones of those wings. Okay, that looks right. I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the back. We're going to do some spiky ridges all along the back of this dragon. Going to help define its shape and give it a little bit more menace. You may notice with the tail, I'm drawing these spiky, curved little lines across our guideline, not on top of it. Like I said, that was just a guideline, so it will guide the shape of the tail, but not necessarily the actual size of the tail. So, this is alright, and we'll erase those guidelines in between the spikes when we're done here. Quick note about tails. They're tricky. It's hard to get the thickness of them correct. I've had a lot of trouble with tails, and it just takes practice like everything else. Eventually, you find the curves that work right for you. That works pretty right for me. I think I'm going to go with it. Move on to this back thigh here. Good back leg there with the chunky Godzilla foot. Now we're going to move on to the front arm. It's going to have a big shoulder right here. We're going to make this arm look a lot more humanoid, and it's going to have a big claw with a thumb at the bottom of it. That's the front arm about done, getting rid of our guidelines. And we're going to move on to that small triangle. Just behind it is going to be the back foot. So we're going to do another chunky Godzilla foot for that. Now we'll start on the other front hand. Remember, this is behind the body, so with perspective, we want to make it a bit smaller than the first hand we drew. Words of Voltron, I'll form the head. Now you'll notice I'm going to work on these horns first. I am going to do quite a few little changes to my initial drawings for this head. I didn't like the size and shape of it exactly, so I went a little bit a different direction. Just follow along and you'll do just fine. At this point, I step away and I think that head is just too small for the burly dragon body we've built. So let's make it a little larger, give it more of a snout, less of a beak. Good old traditional dragon. Yes, that's what we want. That is a full-on dragon head. Now we're going to need to give it some detail. We want that ridge of spikes to kind of continue on its head for a moment. So we'll draw that ridge line and then some spikes at the very top of the head. Very small compared to the ones on the back. That ridge line is also good because it gives us a little guideline for where the eyes are going to go. We know they'll be on either side of that line, so we draw the upper ridge of the eye first, and some curved lines underneath. Now we've got an eye and an eyebrow, and we draw some defining lines on that snout. Yeah, that's looking good. Let's get some teeth in that mouth. Menacing teeth, sharp teeth. There's a dragon. Now, if you wanted to, you could stop here, but we're really going to go in on this one. So I'm going to do some extra detail in the face. We're going to do some lines on the horns. We're going to do some little ridge scales above his eyes to represent the top of his eyebrows. And then I'm going to show you how to do some scales all over the body, but not all over the body. I know that doesn't make much sense, but when you see it in action, you'll understand. Alright, so you can see we've got some fold lines in there, little details. Now let's move on to these scales. So what we do is draw a bunch of little circles all grouped together to represent the scales. But we only do them on certain parts of the body to show the light reflecting on those particular scales and to give the hint that there's scales all over the body. We try to keep these little scale groups to the top of parts of the body. As you can see, it's on the top of the shoulder, the top of the tricep. And that tells our brains that the dragon is covered in scales without having to actually draw a ton of scales and make it look super busy. And I actually really enjoy how it ends up looking. I hope you do too. There we have it, a nicely detailed dragon. Once again, you could stop here, but I don't like to leave my pictures floating in space. So here's a horizon line that I've drawn in, and I'm going to give this picture a background. Now you don't have to do the background that I'm going to do. You can make it your own. I love it when you make these backgrounds your own. Where is this dragon? Mine is going to be flying away from a flaming castle on a mountain and menacing these two dudes in a rowboat. there we go, a full scene with the dragon. Really enjoyed doing this one. Can't wait to see what you guys did with yours. I hope you enjoyed drawing with Conan, and let's draw together again real soon.